Admiral Vextar stood on the command deck of the Kethrin flagship Dominion's Edge, watching the tactical display with growing unease. 3 months had passed since the Human Confederation had rejected the Empire's ultimatum to submit to Kethrin rule. 3 months since Emperor Thakmor had expected to crush these upstart primates in a matter of weeks. Instead, nothing had happened. The humans hadn't attacked. They hadn't sent fleets to engage Kethrin forces. They hadn't even responded to the Empire's increasingly aggressive posturing along their borders. They had simply withdrawn. Every human vessel had vanished from disputed territories. Every human colony beyond their core systems had been mysteriously evacuated. It was as if an entire species had simply decided to hide. Admiral, Communications Officer Zelnath called from her station, her voice tight with concern. We're receiving distress signals from the Corvani system. Vextar's 4 eyes narrowed. Corvani was deep in Kethrin space, far from any human presence. What kind of distress? They're reporting this can't be right. Zelnath's scales had gone pale. They say their star is dying. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of ship systems. Vextar approached the communication station, his massive frame casting shadows across the displays. Clarify that report. Sir, they say the star's luminosity has dropped by 60% in the last 48 hours. The system's temperature is plummeting. They are requesting immediate evacuation assistance. Vextar felt a cold sensation in his gut that had nothing to do with the ship's climate control. Stars didn't just start dying. Not like that. Not in a matter of hours. Set course for Corvani. Maximum velocity. The Dominion's Edge and her escort fleet tore through hyperspace, covering the distance to Corvani in 18 hours. What they found defied every principle of stellar physics Vextar had learned in his 3 centuries of military service. The star that had burned bright yellow for billions of years now glowed a sickly orange, its surface visibly dimmer than it should have been. The planets that had once basked in warm light were already showing signs of rapid cooling. Ice was forming on the outer worlds, and even the inner planets were experiencing dramatic temperature drops. "Get me the system governor," Vextar commanded. Governor Emoticol appeared on the main screen, his usually immaculate appearance disheveled. Behind him, Vextar could see the chaos of a planetary evacuation in progress. "Admiral, thank the ancestors you've come. We lost contact with 2 outer colonies already. The cold took them in hours." "Governor, explain to me how a star simply begins dying." "We don't know. Our scientists are baffled. The fusion processes appear to be disrupted somehow, as if something is interfering with the nuclear reactions at the star's core." Vextar studied the tactical readouts. No enemy vessels in the system. No weapon signatures. No radiation that would indicate any kind of attack. Just a star that was slowly going out like a candle in the wind. "So," his tactical officer interrupted, "we're receiving similar reports from the Velthari and Nexolan systems." The Admiral's blood ran cold. 3 systems. 3 stars, all beginning to die simultaneously. How far are those systems from here? Velthari is 47 light-years. Nexolan is 63. Vextar stared at the display. Whatever was happening to these stars was occurring across vast distances at the same time. No natural phenomenon could affect multiple star systems simultaneously unless... "Get me Emperor Thakmor immediately." The Emperor's scarred visage filled the screen minutes later. "Admiral, report." "Your Majesty, we have a situation. Multiple star systems are reporting stellar failures. Their suns are dying, and we have no explanation for how or why." Thakmor's expression darkened. "How many systems?" "3 confirmed. Possibly more. Billions of lives are at risk." "And the humans?" Vextar hesitated. "No sign of them, Your Majesty. No ships, no weapons, no detectable activity." "Find out what's causing this. And find those humans. They are behind this somehow." The transmission ended, leaving Vextar staring at the dying star on his screen. In all his years of military service, he had faced plasma cannons, quantum torpedoes, and planet-cracking weapons. He had never imagined facing an enemy that could simply turn off the lights. As he watched, the star's luminosity dropped another 5%. On the planets below, entire civilizations were beginning to freeze to death. And somewhere in the darkness between the stars, humanity remained silent. The Kethrans had wanted a war. Instead, they were getting something far worse, the slow, inexorable realization that they might be fighting an enemy that didn't need to attack to destroy them. They just needed to take away the stars themselves. Dr. Yithmora had spent her entire career studying stellar mechanics, but nothing in 4 decades of research had prepared her for what she was witnessing. The mobile laboratory ship Scientific Endeavor hung in space near the dying Corvani star, its instruments trained on the stellar anomaly that defied every law of physics she knew. The fusion rate is decreasing exponentially, she reported to Admiral Vextar via subspace communication. But there's no physical reason for it. The star's mass remains constant. The gravitational pressure should be sufficient to maintain nuclear reactions. Then explain to me why it's happening. Vextar's voice carried the weight of desperation. In the 12 hours since their arrival, 7 more systems had reported similar stellar failures. Admiral, I can't explain it because it shouldn't be possible. It's as if something is selectively interfering with the strong nuclear force itself, but only within stellar cores. The implications of that statement hung in the void like the dying star before them. Manipulation of fundamental forces required technology so advanced it bordered on godlike power. Doctor, came another voice over the comm, Emperor Thakmor himself. You will continue your analysis. Admiral Vextar, report to the throne world immediately. We're convening the War Council. The Imperial throne room on Kethvar had seen the planning of countless campaigns across the galaxy. Its walls displayed holographic maps of conquered systems, each one a testament to Kethran military might. Today, those same walls showed something different, a spreading darkness as star after star winked out across the Empire. Vextar stood before the assembled military leadership, feeling smaller than he had in centuries. 15 systems and counting, he reported. The pattern appears random, but our analysts believe it's targeting key industrial and population centers. General Korthax, commander of the Third Fleet, slammed his fist on the conference table. Where are the humans? They must have ships, bases, something we can target. We've scanned every system along the human border, Vextar replied. Their space appears completely empty. Every human installation has been abandoned. They can't have vanished entirely, insisted Admiral Yil 9 of the Fifth Fleet. An entire species doesn't just disappear. Emperor Thakmor raised a clawed hand for silence. They haven't disappeared. They are hiding while they murder our sons. His voice carried the cold fury of absolute power threatened. Double all patrols along human space. I want every asteroid, every moon, every grain of space dust examined. As the meeting continued, reports kept streaming in. 20 systems. 25. 30. Each one plunging into darkness, billions of Kethrans fleeing in overcrowded evacuation ships toward systems that might themselves go dark at any moment. On the outer rim of human space, Captain Torval commanded a deep reconnaissance patrol tasked with finding any trace of human activity. His stealth ship Shadow Seeker had been probing abandoned human installations for days without result. Captain, his sensor operator called out, I'm detecting a faint energy signature from the 3rd planet in this system. Torval studied the readings. The humans had evacuated this world months ago, leaving behind empty cities and silent factories. Take us down for a closer look. The ship descended through the atmosphere toward the largest city. What they found defied explanation. The city wasn't just empty. It was perfectly preserved, as if its inhabitants had simply vanished in the middle of their daily routines. Food still sat on tables. Vehicles remained parked in orderly rows. But there were no bodies, no signs of struggle, no indication of where millions of humans had gone. Sir, the energy signature is coming from the city center. The sensor operator reported. Some kind of underground facility. They landed near the source of the readings. A team of Kethran Marines followed Captain Torval into what appeared to be a subway entrance. The tunnels led deep underground, far deeper than any civilian infrastructure should require. After descending for nearly an hour, they found it, a vast chamber filled with technology unlike anything in Kethran science. Crystalline structures hummed with energy, connected by conduits that seemed to bend space itself. At the center of it all sat a single human female, her hands moving across controls that responded to her touch with flowing patterns of light. She looked up as the Kethrans entered, showing no fear or surprise. Her eyes were calm, almost sad. "You're Dr. Sarah Chen," Torval said, recognizing her from intelligence files. "The theoretical physicist who disappeared from human space 2 years ago." "Captain Torval," she replied, somehow knowing his name. "I've been waiting for you." "What is this place? What are you doing to our stars?" Dr. Chen stood slowly, her movements deliberate and careful. "We're not doing anything to your stars, Captain. We're simply asking them to stop." The words made no sense, yet somehow Torval felt a chill run through his exoskeleton. Stars don't listen to requests. Everything in the universe is connected, Captain. Matter, energy, space, time. They're all part of the same fundamental structure. When you understand that structure well enough, you can send signals through it, messages that reach anywhere, instantly. You're talking to stars. We're talking to the quantum foundations that make stellar fusion possible. And we're very politely asking those foundations to suspend their normal operations in specific locations. Torval raised his weapon. "Stop this immediately." Dr. Chen smiled sadly. "I can't, Captain. This isn't something I'm doing. It's something humanity is doing. All of us, together, from wherever we are now. We're not hiding from you." She gestured to the humming machinery around them. "We're everywhere." The revelation hit the Kethran Empire like a shockwave through quantum space. Dr. Chen's words echoed in emergency sessions across every major world. Humanity hadn't fled. They had transcended into something that could touch the very foundations of reality. Emperor Thakmor stood in his war room, surrounded by holographic displays showing the accelerating catastrophe. 57 systems now lay in darkness. Refugee fleets clogged the space lanes, carrying billions towards systems that might be next. The Empire's industrial capacity was collapsing as entire sectors went cold and died. "Explain to me how an entire species achieves this level of technological advancement without our intelligence networks detecting it," he demanded. Admiral Vextar felt the weight of imperial displeasure. "Your Majesty, our analysts believe the humans have been working on this project for decades. The evacuations we interpreted as cowardice were actually strategic relocations to hidden facilities." "Hidden where?" "Everywhere, Your Majesty." Dr. Chen implied they've established quantum communication nodes throughout the galaxy. Our deep reconnaissance teams are finding similar installations on abandoned worlds across human space and beyond. The Emperor's claws scraped against the metal of his throne. "And you believe they can actually manipulate fundamental forces?" Dr. Yithmora stepped forward, her scientific instruments still recording data from the dying stars. "Your Majesty, the evidence is undeniable. They are not using conventional technology. They are somehow interfacing directly with the quantum substrate that governs nuclear interactions. Then we destroy their installations. We've tried, Your Majesty. Every facility we found self-destruct before we can capture it intact. And destroying them doesn't stop the stellar failures. The network appears to be distributed and self-sustaining." On the bridge of the Dominion's edge, now serving as mobile command for the evacuation efforts, Vextar received reports that made his worst fears seem optimistic. The human installations weren't just on abandoned worlds. Reconnaissance teams were finding them on asteroids, hidden in nebulae, buried in the cores of dead planets. Humanity had seeded the galaxy with their quantum manipulation technology over decades, possibly centuries. "Admiral," Communications Officer Zelnath announced, "we're receiving a transmission. It's coming from everywhere at once." The main screen flickered to life, showing not Dr. Chen but a different human, an elderly man with kind eyes and a gentle smile that somehow made Vextar's spine crawl. "I am Dr. Marcus Webb, speaking for the Human Confederation," the man said. "We regret the suffering our actions are causing." Vextar activated the response channel. "Then stop. End this immediately." "Admiral, we offered peaceful coexistence. Your empire demanded subjugation. We cannot and will not submit to slavery, but we also will not engage in the warfare you expected. You're committing genocide on a galactic scale." Dr. Webb's expression remained calm, almost sorrowful. "We're providing an alternative to violence. Every Kethran world has received evacuation coordinates. We prepared sanctuary systems where your people can live in safety. Under your control. Under no one's control, Admiral. We're offering you freedom from your own empire's need to conquer and dominate. The transmission shifted to show images that made Vextar's blood run cold. Human ships, not the primitive vessels the Kethrans had expected, but craft that seemed to bend space around them, were appearing at the edge of dying systems. They weren't attacking the fleeing Kethran populations. They were guiding them to safety. Your evacuation fleets are being escorted to the Kepler 442 region, Dr. Webb continued. 17 habitable worlds that we prepared for Kethran settlement. The climate and atmospheric conditions have been adjusted to your physiological needs. This is conquest disguised as mercy, Vextar snarled. Admiral, if we wanted conquest, we would have simply turned off every star in Kethran space simultaneously. Instead, we're giving your people time to relocate. Time to choose a different path. Emperor Thakmor's face appeared in the communication window. Human, I will not be lectured by prey species. Restore our stars or face the consequences. Dr. Webb turned his attention to the Emperor, and for the first time, his gentle demeanor showed a hint of something harder. Your Majesty, what consequences? You cannot reach us. You cannot harm us. You cannot even find us. The age of empires built on forces ending. We have weapons that can crack planets. We have turned off the stars themselves. Your weapons require energy, Your Majesty, energy that comes from the same quantum processes we now influence. Would you like us to demonstrate our ability to affect the fusion reactors that power your ships? The threat hung in the void like a death sentence. Every Kethran vessel, every military installation, every city on every world depended on fusion technology. If the humans could disrupt stellar fusion, it could certainly disrupt the smaller reactors that powered Kethran civilization. You're not at war with us, Dr. Webb continued. You're experiencing evolution. Humanity spent centuries learning that survival doesn't require domination. We're offering to teach that lesson to the galaxy. And if we refuse, then you'll live in the cold and dark until you're ready to learn it yourselves. The transmission ended, leaving the Kethran leadership staring at displays showing their empire slowly dying. Not from weapons of war, but from something far more terrifying, the patient, inexorable removal of the very foundations that made their civilization possible. Admiral Vextar looked at the evacuation fleet streaming toward human-designated sanctuary worlds and realized they weren't just fleeing dying systems. They were witnessing the end of everything the Kethran Empire had ever understood about power, war, and their place in the universe. The humans hadn't attacked because they didn't need to. They had simply turned off the lights and waited for their enemies to understand the new reality. The sanctuary world of Kepler 442b stretched out beneath the landing shuttle like a paradise engineered specifically for Kethran physiology. The gravity was perfect, the atmosphere rich with a nitrogen-oxygen blend their species required, and the temperature regulated by artificial climate controls that somehow felt entirely natural. Governor M.O.T. Cole, formerly ruler of the industrial powerhouse Corvani system, now found himself leading a refugee camp of 50 million Kethrans on a world prepared by their former enemies. The irony wasn't lost on him as he walked through temporary shelters that were more comfortable than many permanent structures back home. Governor, called Dr. Felnoro, the settlement's chief medical officer. We need to discuss the psychological evaluations. They entered a medical facility that had been waiting for them when they arrived, fully stocked, perfectly equipped, staffed by human volunteers who spoke fluent Kethran and understood their physiology better than some Kethran doctors. The reports are disturbing, Dr. Felnoro continued. 60% of our military personnel are showing signs of severe depression and identity crisis. They can't process the fact that they are being cared for by the enemy they were trained to despise. M.O.T. Cole nodded grimly. He'd seen it himself. Proud Kethran warriors reduced to confused, broken individuals who couldn't understand why their captors were healing their sick children and providing better food than most had ever tasted. And the civilians, adapting better, but asking questions we don't have answers for. They want to know why the humans are doing this, why they are being treated with such kindness by a species they've been taught to see as primitive animals. Through the medical facility's windows, M.O.T. Cole could see human and Kethran children playing together in carefully maintained parks. The human children showed no fear, no hatred, no sign that their species had just effectively conquered the galaxy. They simply played. Meanwhile, aboard the Dominion's Edge, Admiral Vextar faced a crisis that military training hadn't prepared him for. His fleet hung in space near the Sanctuary Worlds, unable to attack an enemy that was feeding and protecting his people, unable to retreat to an empire that no longer existed. Admiral, reported Captain Jordan of the cruiser Inevitable Victory. We're receiving surrender requests from 17 Mars systems. Their stars are failing, and they are requesting escort to human sanctuary worlds. Surrender to whom? Vextar asked bitterly. The humans won't even accept our surrender. They just keep helping. The tactical display showed the current state of Kethrin space. 234 systems now dark, their populations relocated to human-prepared worlds. The remaining 87 systems were under siege not by enemy fleets, but by the slow, inevitable cooling of their own suns. So, Communications Officer Zelnav announced, Emperor Thakmor is requesting a private channel. The Emperor's image appeared on the Admiral's personal screen, but he looked nothing like the proud ruler who had commanded galactic conquest just months earlier. His scales had dulled, his posture was bent, and his eyes held a hollow look of being whose entire worldview had collapsed. Admiral, Thakmor said quietly, I want you to arrange a meeting with the humans. Your Majesty, I've been reviewing reports from the Sanctuary Worlds. Our people aren't being enslaved. They are being educated. The humans are teaching them agriculture, sustainable technology, cooperative governance. They are showing our children what life looks like without the constant pressure to conquer and dominate. Vextar felt something twist in his chest. Your Majesty, surely you don't mean to surrender. Vextar, what am I surrendering to? An enemy that provides better medical care than our own empire? Schools that teach our children to read alongside human children? Agricultural systems that produce more food than our industrial planets ever managed? But our honor. The Emperor's voice cracked. I spent 3 centuries building an empire on the bones of conquered species. I called it strength. The humans are showing us what actual strength looks like. The transmission ended, leaving Vextar alone with thoughts that threatened to tear apart everything he believed about duty, honor, and the nature of power itself. On Kepler 442b, Governor Emoticol attended his first interspecies council meeting. The room contained equal numbers of humans and Kethrins, discussing resource distribution, educational curricula, and long-term planetary development with a casual efficiency of beings who had never considered each other enemies. Dr. Sarah Chen, the physicist they had found at the quantum manipulation facility, served as a human representative. She looked across the table at Emoticol with those same sad, understanding eyes. Governor, we know this is difficult. Your people are questioning everything they believed about us, about themselves, about the nature of civilization itself. Why are you doing this? Emoticol asked. You could have simply destroyed us. Because destruction serves no one. Your people have incredible potential once freed from the need to constantly expand and conquer. We've seen it in your art, your science, your capacity for loyalty and courage. All of that can be channeled toward building rather than taking. And if we refuse, if we demand our empire back? Dr. Chen gestured toward the windows, where Kethrin and human children were learning to read together in a classroom that hadn't existed a month ago. Governor, look at your children. Look at how they are thriving without the constant fear that drove your empire. Would you really take that away from them? Emoticol followed her gaze and felt something break inside him, not his spirit, but a rigid shell of assumptions that had defined his entire existence. For the first time in his life, he was seeing what his species could become when they didn't have to spend every moment preparing for the next war. What happens now? He asked quietly. Now we build something better. Together. Your people have skills and knowledge that we need. We have technologies and perspectives that you need. The age of empires is ending, but the age of cooperation is just beginning. Through the quantum communication network that spanned the galaxy, the message was spreading to every remaining Kethrin system. Surrender wasn't just an option anymore. It was an invitation to transformation. 1 year after the last Kethrin star went dark, Admiral Vextar stood on the observation deck of what had once been the flagship Dominion's Edge. The ship had been transformed into a mobile research station, its weapons bays converted to laboratories where Catherine and human scientists worked side by side, studying the quantum technologies that had reshaped the galaxy. Through the viewports, he could see the construction of something unprecedented, a joint Catherine-human deep space station powered not by fusion reactors, but by direct quantum energy manipulation. The same technology that had turned off the stars now provided limitless clean energy. Admiral Dr. Chen approached, carrying a data tablet that showed readings from across known space. We completed the stellar restoration project in the Velthari system. The star is burning normally again. Vextar nodded, still struggling with the reality that their former enemies were now restoring the very suns they had extinguished. How many systems remain? 17. All populations have been successfully relocated and integrated into sanctuary worlds. The remaining stellar restoration should be complete within 6 months. The integration process had been remarkable to witness. Catherine refugees hadn't been absorbed into human society. Instead, they had become partners in building something entirely new. Cities rose on sanctuary worlds that blended Catherine architectural knowledge with human sustainability principles. Educational systems emerged that taught both species' children together, creating the first generation in galactic history to grow up without the concept of inherent enemies. Dr. Chen, Vextar said carefully, I need to ask you something that's been troubling me. Of course, Admiral. How long had humanity been planning this? The quantum network, the sanctuary worlds, the technology to manipulate fundamental forces, this required centuries of preparation. Dr. Chen was quiet for a long moment, looking out at the construction crews that included both species working in perfect coordination. Admiral, we weren't planning to conquer anyone. We were planning to survive. Survive what? The inevitable moment when aggressive species discovered us. We knew that our pacifist nature would be seen as weakness, that empires like yours would try to enslave or destroy us. So we prepared the only defense that could work against overwhelming military force. The ability to turn off the stars. The ability to make war itself obsolete. We spent 300 years developing quantum consciousness technology, the ability for our entire species to think and act as one when necessary. When your empire threatened us, every human alive participated in the quantum manipulation process. Vextar felt a chill that had nothing to do with the ship's climate control. Every human? All 8 billion of you. 18 billion. Admiral, we've been expanding quietly for centuries, preparing for this moment. Every human mind focused simultaneously on the quantum substrate that governs nuclear fusion. That's why we could affect so many star systems at once. The implications staggered him. Humanity hadn't just developed advanced technology. They had evolved into something that could act as a single, coordinated consciousness when survival required it. And now we're teaching that same coordination to your people. Not the quantum manipulation that requires a specific neural architecture that took us millennia to develop, but the cooperation, the ability to work together without the need for dominance hierarchies. On Kepler 442b, former Emperor Thakmor worked in a garden alongside human botanists and Catherine agricultural specialists. His claws, once used to rend flesh in combat, now carefully tended to hybrid crops that grew better than anything either species had developed alone. Governor M.O.T. Cull approached, carrying harvest baskets filled with vegetables that would feed both communities. Your former majesty, the children are asking if you'll tell them stories about the old empire. Thakmor straightened, his aged spine protesting. What do I tell them? That we spent thousands of years conquering worlds and enslaving species because we thought it made us strong. You tell them the truth, Dr. Webb suggested, joining them in the garden. That sometimes entire civilizations have to learn difficult lessons. That strength isn't about taking from others. It's about giving everyone the chance to become their best selves. And if they ask why humanity chose mercy over revenge, Dr. Webb smiled, the same gentle expression that had once terrified Catherine military leadership. Because revenge would have left us alone in a galaxy full of corpses. Mercy gives us partners in building something better than either of our species could create separately. That evening, as 3 moons rose over the sanctuary world, children of both species gathered to hear Thakmor's stories. He told them about the empire that once stretched across the galaxy, about the pride and arrogance that had driven his people to believe conquest was their destiny. But we were wrong, he concluded, looking at young faces that knew no hatred between their species. We thought the galaxy belonged to the strong. We didn't understand that it belongs to the wise. A small human child raised a hand. What happened to all the stars that went out? They are coming back, Thakmor replied. Your people are healing them, just like they are healing us. Above them, in the night sky, a new star flickered to life as a quantum restoration process completed another stellar resurrection. Soon, the galaxy would burn bright again, but this time its light would shine on a civilization built on cooperation rather than conquest. The humans had never attacked because they had never needed to. They had simply demonstrated that there were forces in the universe more powerful than weapons, more enduring than empires, and more transformative than war itself. In turning off the stars, humanity had illuminated a truth that would reshape galactic civilization forever. Sometimes the greatest victory is showing your enemies that they never needed to be enemies at all. Chat Control Sonnet 4.